Hope everyone had a wonderful, restful holiday season. We're back for a great 2021, and everybody looks wonderful and energized. I'm sure everybody that did their goal setting in December is right on track. Oh, I see Isabella giving me a look there, so I'm not sure how that goal set. But we definitely are looking forward to this evening's topic. It's going to be something that's very prevalent. It's very important. It's very pressing for us to understand some of the things that we'll be talking about this evening, and social media. You all were born after the whole concept of social media. So believe it or not, before you were born, there were papers and newspapers and magazines and phones that were attached to walls. Just crazy things. Anyway, we're going to talk tonight about some of the things that you are going and dealing with in your career very early now as you start out your professions and what to look out for. So without any further delay, I'm going to turn it back over to Bobby, and she's going to introduce our fantastic panelists. So thank you everyone for joining us this evening.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Cheryl. I appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. And this is our evening of social discussion, so social media. And I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our speakers. The first of all is Megan Paquin. Megan is Vice President at Paquin Communications. She's been trusted to lead communication strategies for some of the world's largest and most respected brands. Her career spans more than a decade and includes significant experience in healthcare, technology, education, nonprofit, hospitality, and entertainment sectors. She began her career in public relations with MGM and coordinating major broadcasts and international media relations for its iconic Las Vegas destinations. Her reputation for excellence and integrated marketing experience led to communications leadership at roles at the Ritz-Carlton, the Grand Cayman, and Hyatt Regency Orlando. Megan has an accreditation in public relations and is a certified public relations counselor. She's also president of the Florida Public Relations Association, the Orlando chapter, and she earned her bachelor's at communication at the University of Central Florida, go Knights, and where she's currently serving as an adjunct instructor at the Nicholson School of Communications and Media. She received her master's in behavioral economics at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. Our next speaker is going to be Diane Diaz. Diane is a lead speaking coach and personal brand strategist at Speaking Your Brand. Diane regularly speaks on personal branding, LinkedIn strategy, and women's empowerment. She has her master's degree in business administration with years of branding, marketing, and public speaking. She's also is an Ironman triathlete, and enjoys fitness and listening to podcasts. Welcome, Diane. Lynn Mulherin is going to be our third and final panelist. She is a pioneering technology executive and a small business entrepreneur. She has a background in higher education at the Global Online University and works currently with powers of technology and people delivering scale, groundbreaking solutions that are accessible and inclusive. Her inventive mindset really helped to create a technology that hosts a free, safe, and private online platform that provides a way for people to celebrate virtually graduations, careers, weddings, and other milestones. Pearls of Wisdom was awarded Best of Weddings in 2021 and Best of Weddings 2020, and is obviously very appropriate during the pandemic. Lynn holds her Master's of Arts in Organizational Management from the University of Phoenix, and she's completed her Bachelor of Arts in English from the Farley Dickinson University's Roxton College in England. Our three panelists will each be presenting for 5 minutes, and we're so glad that they're here. I'm going to turn this over now to our first panelist.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me today. It's so nice to see so many women here. I think it comes as no surprise in the environment that we're in today that social media communication has become more essential now than ever to build your professional network. But I think with so many different channels and conflicting advice about how to best leverage social media, that this panel is really timely for all of you as you decide what's really going to be beneficial for you in your career development journey. So to be successful, I guess as the public relations professional here, I think the best advice that I can share with you is to really consider social media a communication channel more than anything, especially with the emergence of, Instagram stories, TikTok, and influencers. There's a lot of pressure, and I think even more so on you all as Gen Z, to really use social media as a platform to market yourself rather than to communicate with others. So just a quick show of hands, how many of you are friends with people who would consider themselves influencers? No? Anybody follow influencers or have a friend that uses? Yeah, me too. Or have friends that use social media maybe to promote their businesses or side hustles? Yeah. So all of that's super awesome and really empowering, but it can also be really overwhelming when you're starting out on more of the job hunt. So if that's the position that you see yourself in right now, then I would suggest that you think of social media the same way you would in developing strategic goals and objectives for yourself, like you did in your 2021 planning, or how we as panelists might approach a business plan. So really start to ask yourself, what do I want social media to help me accomplish? Is it to get a job? Is it to meet people in professional networks that can help me enhance my industry knowledge? Is it to get your dogs not to bark in the middle? Sorry, someone rang our doorbell. So once you have your goals and objectives laid out, and try to make them SMART, right? So specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Give yourself some limits so that they're very specific. Sorry about these dogs. And then do some research. So let's say your goal was to connect with somebody in a particular industry. I would suggest making a list of the companies in that industry that you would really love to work for. Take a look at their profiles, look at some of the individuals who work there. This LinkedIn is great for that, especially because they make it so easy. And make note about similarities in how they position themselves. What kind of words do they use to describe their experience or their skills, or even just their hobbies and interests? What groups are they a part of? Then try to build your profile on channels in a way that will align who you are with the position that you want to be in based on that research. Does that all make sense? So then once you have your profile in a great place, you can start connecting. And notice I didn't say immediately just start creating content. Content's really great and all, but it takes a lot of time and it's passive. So I suggest focusing your energy on really fostering the connections and introducing yourself to people who can propel your career forward. And I'll give you a personal example. So when I was about 5 years ago, I was on maternity leave and I was feeling really isolated, at home with a newborn. And it made me think a lot about what I wanted to do with my career. And was I doing the most that I felt like I could be doing, or was there something more out there for me to achieve? And I wasn't really sure. So what I did was I started building my network on LinkedIn by looking for different companies I might be interested in working with, looking at different titles that I might want to have. And then I set a goal for myself to reach out to one of those people every month. And I would just send them a friendly message. Hey, saw your profile, thought that we might share some interests, let's connect. Or if they were local and maybe it wasn't the time of COVID, I would invite them out for our coffee. And over time, that habitual habit allowed me to really branch out and build my network. And the benefit was I got to meet people, so I didn't feel stuck at home anymore. It was really great for my personal self, but I also had an opportunity to reconnect with a former supervisor who saw all the things that I had done and how it could fill a gap that he now had. And I actually went back to work for an organization I had been with in a much higher level role that then positioned me to get into the role that I'm in now. So those little connections can really build up over time. And don't get, downtrodden if someone doesn't respond to you right away. Just continue to make it that habit, and over time, the right person will reach out to you at the right time. And I think that that's really the magic of social media. So that's my quick 5-minute advice.
Our next speaker is Diane Diaz, and welcome, Diane. She's going to share her screen. So we've got a little bit of a PowerPoint. So,
okay, 1 second while I do that. Let me just make sure I'm choosing the right one. Yes. Okay, so if I can get a thumbs up from you, Bobby, if you can see that.
yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Just making sure. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me here tonight. And I'm so glad that Megan mentioned LinkedIn, because that's what I'm going to be talking about. And I agree with this idea of making connections. So I'm going to share with you in just a moment 3 top tips for how you can make the most of LinkedIn, because obviously there's a lot to LinkedIn and there's a lot you can do, but there's what I think 3 really important things that you can do right off the bat. Now, first, what I want to say is that, let me actually just get a little bit of information. So tell me in the chat, what are your top career goals or goal after graduation? I would just love to kind of get a sense of what you all are thinking. Is it to find a job, to find a better job, to start your own business? Anybody want to share? Anybody? Move on to PhD. Okay. LinkedIn's important for that as well.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Anyone else? So while you're putting that in the chat, I will just let you know that I have been through many career shifts in my lifetime. Okay, find a teaching position. Good. So you definitely need LinkedIn for that. Now, I've been through a lot of career shifts. I've been laid off from jobs. I've rebranded myself numerous times. And what I can tell you is I'm 54. I can tell you that over the course of my life and my career, I have come to realize that building your personal brand is probably the single most important thing you can do to build the type of career that you want, regardless of the industry you're in, regardless of where you think or don't even realize your career might go. Your personal brand building starts years ago, frankly, and it's a long-term play. And that's where LinkedIn can come into play to help you build a personal brand that works for you and speaks for you to attract to yourself the opportunities that you want for your career, regardless, again, whether you're starting your own business, working for someone else, shifting careers, it doesn't really matter. But you need to think about personal brand building and, as Megan mentioned, making these connections. So how are recruiters kind of adapting to this change in hiring that's happening? Obviously, we're in a totally different world than we've ever been, right? So, I don't know what the world's going to look like once we're through this, but what I know right now is things are different. And if there's ever been a time to be savvy with your use of social media tools, particularly LinkedIn, it's now. So I would encourage you to kind of pay attention to that. What I can tell you is that 84% of recruiters are adapting their hiring practices to facilitate more remote exchanges. And of those, 58% now use social media, including LinkedIn, Facebook, and even Instagram to connect with their candidates. So as Megan mentioned, it is about making these connections. It's about communicating with your audience, and it's about positioning yourself the way that you want to be seen so that, again, you can attract those opportunities to you. So these are going to be my top 3 tips for creating a LinkedIn profile that gets you noticed. All right. So if you don't take away anything else from what I've said today, please take away these top 3 tips. Again, there's a lot to LinkedIn, so I can't give you all the information you need to know. These are what I think you can do right away. So the first thing is to fill out your entire profile. Employers, hiring managers, recruiters, potential clients, whomever you're trying to make this connection with, they're looking at the information on your LinkedIn profile, and they're looking for ways to kind of differentiate you from everyone else in your industry. And the LinkedIn algorithm, and frankly, the Google algorithm, because Google loves LinkedIn because there's a lot of content on it. Those algorithms are also looking for things to differentiate. So you want to position yourself the way you want to be seen. And that means you need to fill out your whole profile, make sure it's thoroughly fleshed out so that people you connect with, but also those algorithms know how to choose your profile based upon the way you want to be seen and known. So that means thinking about, how do I want to be seen? What do I want to be known for? And then using those keywords all throughout your profile. So think about keywords as you are working on fleshing out your profile. The next thing is, think of LinkedIn as the story of you, not as an online resume. Does it function as an online resume? Yes, to some degree, but it's more than that. A resume is just sort of a piece of paper that talks about your skills and qualifications. LinkedIn is about telling the story of who you are, and you can flesh it out with things like volunteer experience and special projects you've worked on, and also all the connections that you have, and getting recommendations on LinkedIn and endorsements from people. So it really tells this full story, because you are more than just a list of qualifications and jobs you've held, right? So talk about yourself on LinkedIn in that way. And when you're writing your LinkedIn About section, write it in the first person. You are a person, and that's the only way someone reading that has to go on to sort of pick up on what your personality is like. So write it in the first person so you can make a human connection. We want to make human connections, especially now when we can't make human connections, right? We can't physically make those connections. So, you got to kind of make a little bit more of an effort to do that in social media. And then finally, grow and nurture your connections. As Megan mentioned, it is super important that if you haven't been doing this, that you start now making connections with people. Well, for example, here, and I'll share my LinkedIn URL shortly in the chat so you can connect with me. But it's important to connect with people you meet in these virtual sessions. If you do a training online and there's people in there, share your LinkedIn URL with them, connect with them. If you meet someone IRL, connect with them, right? Connect with your professors, connect with your supervisor, connect with your coworkers, start building your network. What happens is the more your network grows, the more your network grows. And the more you're going to attract opportunities, because networks or profiles, LinkedIn profiles with very large networks get shown to more people on LinkedIn, on the platform. So growing your network is going to exponentially increase your exposure. And if you've optimized it using those keywords for how you want to be known, you're actually going to start to get found more. And you would be surprised the opportunities that come through you. I've gotten clients through LinkedIn, through my profile. I've gotten, years ago before the pandemic, I was getting contacted by headhunters and recruiters. So they are looking at profiles. So make sure that you grow and nurture your connections in that way. So imagine if your LinkedIn profile did the talking for you and actually worked for you to bring those opportunities to you that can help you grow your career, move into that position you want, start a business, find the right clients, whatever it is you're trying to do. So imagine if it could actually talk for you. So think about presenting yourself in that way. And I do want to challenge you all to take at least one of these tips and apply it right away and just see what the changes are that you can make. Now, from a connection standpoint, I did want to share with you that my company, Speaking Your Brand, has a virtual summit coming up. This would be a great opportunity for you to build your network. So it's free to attend. You can just go to the Speaking Your Brand URL there, free to attend. But I just offer that because it is important to start building your connections. So please feel free to check that out. And then, as Bobby said, I'd be happy to come into the breakout rooms and answer any questions.
Terrific. Thanks, Diane.
Yeah, you're welcome.
If you would.
Yes, unshare. Here we go.
There you go. And now we'll hear from our lovely Lynn.
Well, hi, everybody. And while I am getting ready to share my screen, I want to vouch for Diane because I met Diane pre-COVID. And after I was leaving my 25-year career in higher education and starting my business, she helped me with sort of repositioning myself a little bit on LinkedIn. And so she has a lot more that she could say about LinkedIn, that's for sure. So definitely the tips in that 5 minutes are worthy. Absolutely. So fantastic. So I wanted to talk to you about managing your social media presence, and was curious, how many of you have secretly wanted to be a social media influencer? And if you think about that in your mind, you don't have to raise your hand or anything, but you actually are a social media influencer of your own careers, because you're able to influence people's minds and how they perceive your professional and your personal presences. So you are your own social media influencer. And think about how everyone today either Googles or checks out social media accounts or looks at someone's online presence to get an impression of who you are, or to hire someone, or even promoting someone within an organization. Now, sometimes companies are looking at the social media presence just to make sure before they put someone, for example, into a leadership position. So I want you to think of your online reputation as your reputation, not just your online reputation, because, you know, especially today, we're all in a virtual world, and we need to make sure that we have the presence that we're wanting. So as Bobby had mentioned, I started an online platform for virtual occasions. And I also have a career in higher education. And so I have seen firsthand people that I've seen mistakes made firsthand in terms of either negative image, giving a negative first impression, or something someone has written causing them to not be hired or promoted and whatnot on social media. And I've also experienced firsthand online bullying. And so I know firsthand how that is not fun. And so stay open to some of these ideas that we're going to talk about today, because it really can make a difference how you set your tone online in every interaction, how you comment, how you present yourself, but how you also interact with others online. So let's move on to the next slide here. And so just quickly, knowing and growing, sort of a know and grow strategy is, first of all, understanding your audience. So making sure you understand each platform and what its purpose is. So as Diane just talked about, LinkedIn is a professional platform. So you're not going to be posting pictures of your puppies on LinkedIn, right? That might be more for Instagram. So really understanding what the audience is going to be very, very important as you develop your own presence. And you'll probably get a copy of this deck, and I have in the presenter notes some details on each one of the platforms that you're probably on. I would recommend certainly being on Facebook if you're not already. I think most people are. Billions of people are on Facebook. So although maybe your mom or your grandmother are on Facebook, and you might think, oh, I don't want to be on Facebook. It really is, it's a widely used tool. And so I would recommend a Facebook presence for your personal, and LinkedIn certainly for professional. But Twitter is also becoming very important in your professional life too. If you can build a voice and have a presence professionally on Twitter. I'm pretty new to Twitter myself, but understand those platforms, and then you can establish and boost your brand from there. So, and remember, as you grow your audience, grow your brand, that it's not always about you. So you don't want to always be posting something about yourself or talking about yourself, right? It has to also be about others and you commenting on or featuring others, and that can help to boost your brand as well. So, if you want something that lasts forever, everybody wants something that lasts forever, right? Well, your reputation does. So keep that in mind, that once something is online, that online reputation, which is your reputation, as I mentioned, is out there forever. So the best way to start to see what your online presence says about you is to Google yourself and see if you have a public account on Facebook or LinkedIn or anything else, it's going to show up. So I would recommend that if you are applying for jobs and, you know, preparing yourself to be searched online, then you want to make sure that you have a tidy room, so to speak, right? So when you invite someone to your house, you want to make sure, or your apartment, that it's clean before they arrive, right? So make sure and tidy up those pages. Keep a private account until they're tidy, and then you can switch it back to public once you have the presence that you want to be out there. And then, you know, if you ever get in a position where you have something that is out there that you don't want and you can't seem to delete it or get rid of it in some way, maybe it's something, you know, that's showing up out there that you've commented on, or a picture of yourself or something like that, that for some reason you can't control within your own social pages, then, you know, worst case scenario, you can hire a reputation management firm to get rid of it for you. However, that's expensive and you really don't want to put yourself in that position. And that's why you're in a great position now in your youth to really make the right steps now instead of having to clean anything up later down the line. So I will leave you with a pearl of wisdom, which is that it actually, some of you may not know who Warren Buffett is, so I'll just let you know. He's actually 90 years old and he is a world famous, I think he's number 4 in terms of wealth in the entire world. And so he is a business tycoon, he's a philanthropist, he's an investor. And so I think he's got a lot of wisdom to share, right? So he said, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. So if you think about that, you'll do things differently. And I think he is exactly right. So keep that in mind as you're about to post something. If in your gut, you're thinking, should I post this or not? Then probably not. Save yourself the time and energy later from having to go back and clean up and tidy up things when you're really looking for payoffs in the future rather than consequences. So when you're writing something, posting something, think about it. Do I want to pay the consequence for this later, or do I want to have a payoff that's positive for it later? And that's a good way to kind of think about it. So that's all I have to share now, but I will be in one of the breakout rooms as well. And thank you so much for inviting me to be with all of you today. Thank you.
Awesome. You could stop your share. That would be great.
I am, yep.
The little green box. There we go. Perfect. I am hoping we have some questions, and when in doubt, don't post. I like that one, Diane. Thank you. I personally had a couple questions, but I will like to defer, if we can, to some of you all. Okay, a question for Lynn. What are some examples of things that would contribute to a negative first impression on a social media profile?
Yeah, I think that first of all, you'll want to have an image that is certainly a professional image on LinkedIn. You may even want to have a professionally done photo, but you don't have to, as long as you have a background that's a professional background, that you're dressed professionally and so forth. You wouldn't want to have a profile picture that perhaps you would put on Instagram with a pink wig that you decided to wear out one night, right? You wouldn't want to have that on LinkedIn. So, you know, when employers are looking to hire people, they want to see that consistency across platforms. They don't want to guess who you are. They want to get a picture for, okay, this is consistently, this person looks like they're, you know, they're the same across all platforms. Now, your professional image is going to be different from your, maybe your Facebook profile image and so forth. So, you know, that's okay. You can have different photos, but you still should sort of look like the same person across all platforms. So, You don't want to have negative images out there of you, you know, getting drunk with friends, or, you know, wearing something super provocative. I mean, these images are going to be out there forever. You can take them down on your own page, but somebody else might have already shared it, or it could have gotten saved elsewhere.
Yep. Yeah, that's very true. And I'm afraid, having hired over 1,000 people myself, we do look at that. And, you know, the people that you're friends with influence that as well, the comments that are made, etc. So it's important to understand that going in. Any other questions? Thank you very much for that one, Erin. Okay, ladies, not too talkative tonight.
Bobby, I
Yeah.
have one.
Okay, good.
So based on the current, you know, we just had the presidential inauguration yesterday. What are your thoughts? And I'll tee this up to Megan. What are your thoughts on sharing or your political views or social justice views? What are your thoughts on social media for a person looking for a new position?
Well, I think it's really important to have beliefs and opinions and to share them, but you should be mindful that the First Amendment doesn't protect you from private employers taking action against you because your views are in conflict with their mission, vision, or values. So, you know, there's been a lot of talk lately about the people who attended the deadly riots on January 6th. A lot of them have been fired from their jobs, and that is perfectly legal, especially here in the state of Florida, which is an at-will state. You can be fired for anything. So I think one of the tips that I use often personally as someone who works in the field of social justice is, if I see something that someone else posts and I have an emotional reaction to it, I don't comment. I don't share it. I'll sleep on it. I'll wait and see if there's something I want to say, and then maybe make my own post in a way that's professional and aligned with who I am and what my objectives are, perhaps for our client or for our firm. So, you know, really trust that gut instinct, and just be aware that, you know, just because we have the First Amendment and freedom of speech, it doesn't mean you can post anything you want, anytime, anywhere, and there not be repercussions for it.
Excellent point. Thank you.
Diane or Lynn, do you have any comments on that? Diane?
Yes, I would like to add something to that. I completely agree with that. And then I would add also that, as Megan mentioned, it is important to have a stance on something. I would just think about, what is your personal policy of how you want to come across on social media. Now, you know, obviously, if someone is posting things that are inflammatory and threatening, clearly that's going to impact you from a career standpoint. If, on the other hand, you're posting something like, I post a lot of women's rights things, I always try to be mindful, though, that what I am posting is positive. So if somebody posts something I disagree with, I don't go on a rant about them, because my thought is, what does that add to the world? What does that add to the world? What does that add? How does that impact me as far as how people will see me? It doesn't feel beneficial to anybody. But I do share a lot of content that's women's rights focused, that is racially justice focused, and things like that, because those are the things I stand for. Now, if someone were to disagree with those, so be it. And if a client wouldn't want to work with me based on that, I'm not sure that would be a client I would want, right? So you have to think about what is your stance on those things, and then let that kind of guide what you do.
Perfect.
Thank you.
That's great. While your picture's up there, I'm going to share. Dora Agnes asks, how many times or how often should we post on LinkedIn?
That's a great question. I would say it's not necessarily about how many times and how often. I would say find a frequency of posting that is right for you, that you can keep up. Because if you say, I'm going to post, 4 times a week, can you realistically keep that up and make it valuable content? The more important thing is to share content that's valuable for the audience that you want to attract, and with how you want to be seen as a personal brand. So if I'm sharing a lot of things around women using their voices, because that is the work that we do at Speaking Your Brand. So I might post once or twice a week. And as long as I'm consistent with that, that's the important thing. And that my message is everything kind of connected to that sort of value.
Perfect. Great. Any other questions, ladies? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and send us all to our breakout rooms. I have, we're going to just do 20 minutes because, hey, we talked a little bit, and we'll make that happen. And I will add our speakers to rooms. And then if you want to bounce around, you can just back out of the room and come back to me, and I'll send you to another room. Okay.
Isabella has a question.
Okay, go ahead, Ilya.
No, Isabella has a question.
Okay, read it. Cheryl?
I was going to type it in, but it's better if I just say it. I've had a lot of people like tell me like different techniques to how to make your LinkedIn the most successful. What would you recommend as far as like the structure of your experience, or what you should add into your LinkedIn to like make it like enhance the quality of it?
So Lynn, why don't you take that and then we'll go to the other two ladies.
I didn't quite hear the very end of the question, Isabella. Did you say how to structure your LinkedIn content?
Yes, like what information should you include in your LinkedIn that like differentiates it from your resume, if that makes sense?
Okay. Yeah, so as Diane mentioned in the summary, you want to make sure you're talking about yourself in the first person, kind of telling your story, and use those keywords. List out maybe in some bullets the things that you're really great at, whether it's maybe it's working remotely, or maybe it's living by your core values or something like that. Whatever your top talents are, and then the work experience section. That's where it's a little bit more like a resume. And it's funny because when LinkedIn first came out, it really was more of an online repository, resume repository. So that's why I worked with Diane, because it really, it's not that anymore at all. So, but you can fill out your sections. Don't give too much information on LinkedIn within the description, because you want to leave it a little bit. You want to fill it out in its entirety, but you want to leave it open so that as you're applying for different roles, you're not pigeonholing yourself into one specific area. So, and then, make sure you keep track of all of your accomplishments, your awards, your honors over time, so that you don't forget them. Because boy, it was hard for me to go back and remember all the things and what dates they occurred. And oh my gosh, that was one of the hardest parts about really trying to fill it out properly. So make sure you keep track every time you have something that changes in your career, because it'll always be on LinkedIn, which is nice, rather than just keeping it on paper on a resume, which was, much more complicated in the past. So and then you can also, over time, there's so many categories you can add within the achievements. You can add publications, all kinds of things. So, but to start out, just keep it fairly basic and manageable so that you're not feeling too overwhelmed with putting it together, and use those keywords, stay consistent with your messaging, and keep it so that you're able to be a little bit flexible moving forward.
The good notes in chat about post your awards and volunteer work, special projects that you've been working on, certifications that you've received, because all of that, again, is searchable content, and it's very helpful for people that are doing a particular Google search or search for LinkedIn for potential hire. So awesome.
So Megan, I just want to give you a chance. Anything you want to follow up on Lynn's comments before we go into the breakout rooms, or?
No, I completely agree. I think, especially what Diane mentioned too in her presentation, make sure everything is filled out. I hear a lot from professionals who say, I don't want to look like I have time on my hands to be filling out these profiles, but I think they're leaving these huge opportunities on the table. And when I personally see a profile that's incomplete, I think it looks a little lazy. So this is your opportunity to show who you are, the story of you, like Diane said, and also to showcase some like really great skills like your writing abilities, your community service and awards and dedication to being in groups like this. All of that sells you.
So how many of our mentees do not have a LinkedIn account? Does anyone not have a LinkedIn profile? Raise your hand if you do not. So we have Coco. Anybody, everyone else has a LinkedIn? Kind of, sort of. I saw Bigna kind of smile. So Bigna, do you have a LinkedIn account?
Yes, I have a LinkedIn account, but I said I use it a little bit and never post anything. So that's why I think I benefit a lot from the speaking from Dan, from Lynn, from Megan. Yeah.
Awesome.
On